A little bit earlier on, you were speaking about being involved in the FA Cup final.
Yeah.
So what were your memories of that journey to get to that final?
Well, the greatest memory of that that tournament at that time was the semi-final against Luton at Wembley, and we won 2-0 and made both goals. That was, because it was at Wembley, I remember doing the lap of honour in the semi-final stage, sort of giving the Chelsea fans something to celebrate, and then obviously ended in disappointment, but lost to Man United 4-0. Cantona and I got 2 up against Stevie Bruce. Remember coming on in that game, and Stevie Bruce, I started my career with at Gillingham, and there we were years later, and you imagine that I first started in 81, and then 13 years later I'm coming up against Stevie Bruce, and I played against Gary Pallister a lot of times, and a number of other players. Irwin I played with Ireland, and others. So yeah, it was a great occasion, but a sad ending.
Yeah, so obviously not many people can say they've played or been a part of an FA Cup final team. But what about growing up? What was the FA Cup final? What did that mean to
everything.
you?
Everything. It was the greatest competition that was in English football. It was up there with the Premier League, or certainly it was the old Division 1, which is winning the title. But the FA Cup had the utmost importance growing up.
It
was the dream. Well, my first game of loving Liverpool was when they beat Newcastle with Malcolm McDonald in the Newcastle lineup. Kevin Keegan getting a brace in that game. That's one of my greatest memories as a kid with Liverpool.
But do you think it's lost its charm? Or?
Of course it has. Yeah, it's been devalued to some level, mainly because of the importance. Once Premier League came about, it obviously grew in momentum and become far bigger and far more important. Then managers who had managed abroad, the cup competitions weren't so important in France or in Italy or wherever as they were as it was for the FA Cup. So they would make different changes to teams that were playing games, and people would be left out. You didn't get left out for an FA Cup tie. You were playing. You wanted to play in that third round FA Cup draw. And you might be against Minnows. So you were desperate to play. And, Wembley, I grew up and with FA Cup starting at early in the morning. And the lead up till 3 o'clock and then beyond. I grew up with 8 hours of television before the FA Cup final.
Oh, I remember it. I remember with the helicopters following the team buses and all sorts, all the way down to Wembley. Yeah.
We did the record, we did the suits, we did, our wives were being interviewed, and, all this was going on. Yeah, it's a brilliant competition. And I really do hope that it'll get some life, put back into it, because it's held in the highest esteem in football for me. Yeah. It's certainly, if you'd have said to me as a young teenager, you'd play in an FA Cup final one day, I would have just reacted the same as if you've won the old Division 1 or the Premier League. What an achievement to be there,
Well, do let us know if you're already on your way to an FA Cup fixture. And if you are like Cass, you have that excitement for it. I mean, I still love it. But it does feel a little bit different.
Do you know who's carrying the FA Cup at the moment?
Go on.
Teams lower down the tier.
Well, no, this is what I was going to say.
Their enthusiasm is what the top teams need.
But you know what? You're right. And because my team now are obviously playing in the Premier League, I don't have that thing of who are we going to get in the draw, which is what you used to have when you were a lower league team. It doesn't quite have that same feel to it. That being said, obviously you want to go on a nice cup run because it's always exciting, the possibility of getting as close as you can to Wembley. 81089. Let us know how you're feeling, or we'll give you some game day shout outs a little bit later on. But the third round draw itself hasn't conjured up too many glamour ties for the teams lower down in the pyramid. talkSPORT breakfast host Jeff Stelling thinks the way the draw is done needs to change.
Oh, Al, I am so excited about Palace against Everton and Wolves against Brentford and Spurs against Burnley. I cannot contain myself. Look, I'm sure it'll sound great on talkSPORT, but I mean, Palace against Everton, both clubs I like, mate. I mean, really, really like. But tonight, well, I tell you what, ITV have got Mr. Bates versus the Post Office on. It's a more interesting contest. I'll probably watch that instead. The games they picked are too obvious, but I don't want to bang on too much, Gabby, but I really think third round of the FA Cup, you just see the draw. There are 44 teams from the Premier League and the Championship. There are 20 who've battled their way through. Pick those 20 out, first of all, home and away. guarantee them a game against one of the big guns,
Yeah.
Premier League or Championship. And you know what? It still leaves you with 24 teams from the Premier League and Championship who'll still be drawn against each other. You get the best of all worlds. You get the potential giant killings, and you get the big games. And all the lower league teams are happy because they've got a payday. You know, you look at some of the ties this weekend: Maidstone against Stevenage, Newport against Eastleigh. What sort of reward is that?
Do you agree with what he's saying?
No.
Oh,
no,
why?
I totally disagree with Jeff, and I love Jeff to death. He's been a brilliant broadcaster, fantastic on football. I hate the idea of seeding.
Why though?
Because everybody's going down that road. I watch Champions League group draws, and I watch all these draws and seeding. I don't agree with it. I think, yeah, you have lower league, Newport against Eastleigh. Yeah, it's one of them two are going to get to the fourth round.
Yeah, of course, that's brilliant. That is great. But
I don't want seeding in every competition.
But do you really want to see Crystal Palace against Everton?
No,
Brentford
I didn't really
against
want to
Wolves,
see it.
Arsenal against Liverpool, fixtures that we can see regularly in the Premier League. To me, I understand where Jeff is coming from in the sense that I do want to see some of these lower league sides get that big opportunity. And I know
if you keep winning, you'll get a big opportunity. You will meet one of them.
Yeah, you will.
You will meet a big
of course.
club. You know,
But likewise, you know, let's just bring, I don't know, let's say Middlesbrough, for example, are doing really well in the League Cup and in the League Cup semi-final. And yes, a team like Eastleigh, if they were to get past Newport, would still look at that opportunity to go to Middlesbrough as a great day out. But it's still not the tie that they would want. It's still not the tie that we'd go, oh, wow, Eastleigh have been rewarded with this. Not to, I mean, I'm just picking out Middlesbrough, so please don't ever go at me, Middlesbrough fans. But I don't know, I see where Jeff is coming from. There is a part of me that, I mean, maybe it's also down to the broadcasters, and maybe the broadcasters need to think a little bit better about the games that they pick. Because like I say, you know, Crystal Palace against Everton, not a massive draw for me in the FA Cup. Arsenal against Liverpool, yes, I'll watch it. But like I say, it's not that long ago they took on each other. So it's a bit dull.
I'm delighted. Look, I'm going to Arsenal tomorrow. They got Liverpool. I'm going to that game. But I'm also, that's the beauty of the Cup, is that two leading teams, one big club is going to get knocked out. I think that's part of what Cup competition should be.
Yeah,
now,
that's true.
I also like the idea, which they did in France, in the Coupe de France, which I really loved, is when smaller teams do get the big team and they get drawn, say, I don't know, let's say Crawley got against Liverpool.
Yeah.
That they have the chance, if they're separated by more than one division, so a Premier League team could play a League One team, League Two, or down the pyramids.
Yeah.
They have the opportunity to play the game away if they want to.
So they have the choice.
They have the choice. They can play them at home, which the draw inevitably would be at home for them. But they have the choice if they wanted to change it to an away game.
See, I get that. And I
like that idea.
Yeah, I think that is a way that you could work the draw, in that all Premier League teams should be away for the third round, to guarantee the possibility. Well, I say away, that might not be, because you're saying some of these teams might want to play at Old Trafford. But I still think the FA Cup third round...
If they're separated by more than one division, the game will go to the smaller club at their home stadium. Okay. But if they chose to go, no, we will play away at Anfield, that is fine. That can happen. There's a big payday for them. I don't want... Look, so many competitions are seeded now in every different types of sport. You know, and I just feel like, can we not just leave one that's a bit nostalgic and a bit, you know, big teams play each other in this competition in the early rounds, and one big club get knocked out?
It's an interesting debate, isn't it, though?
I don't mind. If Liverpool get knocked out, well, of course I don't want them to, but they get knocked out Arsenal, concentrate on the league.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. No, I hear where you're coming from. It's an interesting point. And also I hear where Jeff's coming from, because, like I say, when you look at some of the ties that came about through the third round draw, they weren't the most exciting, were they? So I can kind of see both points of view. It's very interesting.
Some games aren't exciting, you know. Some
you're
games
right.
are. You know, would Crystal Palace versus Everton in the Premier League game be exciting?
Well, probably not. No.